Hello everyone! Today I am here to talk about Vengeful by V.E Scwab. This is the second book in the villain series, so I'm going to be talking all about it. I will do a brief synopsis of the first book, Vicious. I will be talking about spoilers about this book in this video, but I will let you know when, so you are safe to watch until I say so. So like I said, this is the second book in the villain series, the first one being Vicious. So Vicious came out a few years ago, I want to say like 5 almost. It's been a long time awaited for this sequel. This is about 2 college students named Victor and Eli, and they're roommates, and they kind of get along, but they don't. I think they're really competitive towards each other and wants to one up each other. They both have kind of really falling out kind of lives, and basically Eli discovers EOs, or extraordinaries, and he discovers that EOs are kind of made by near-death experiences, or actually dying and for a little bit and then being brought back to life. So Eli confides into Victor about this, and they decide to experiment with it. They decide to use themselves as the test subjects and to kind of put themselves into near-death, pretty much death experiences, and see if they will become an EO. Not a spoiler warning, they do. And basically what happens from there is a big falling out happens and Victor gets put into jail. And this book is told alternating with timelines. It starts off with Victor in jail and him plotting to get out and to kill Eli and hunting him down. And then we also go back to the time that they were in college when this whole EO process began. So that is basically what Vicious is all about. Vicious, it's one of my favorite books of all time. I will let you know that these are adult books. They are not YA. I know Victoria Schwab is her YA handle, but V.E Scwab is her adult handle. So just know there's a lot of adult language in it. There's a lot of brutality, goriness, just kind of evilness. So just so you know, these are not YA in the slightest. It's just the notion of good versus evil, right versus wrong. Or could there be a middle in that? Like, is there shades of gray in between those different conflicting sides? It is addictive. I've read a good majority of V.E Scwab's, Victoria Schwab's books, and there has not been one that I haven't really enjoyed strictly from her writing. Her writing is beautiful. It flows so well. The book is confusing a little bit because of the alternating timelines, but regardless, you're going to get sucked in, you're going to get enamored, and fall is the perfect time to read this book. Trust you me, if you're looking for a great, like, kind of gritty, dark book about good versus evil, please read Vicious. You will not be disappointed. It is amazing. So highly recommend Vicious. I want to talk about that before going into Vengeful. So Vengeful just came out. Like I said, it's been about 5 years waiting for the sequel, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, and I'm not surprised by that. I don't want to say like I'm completely shocked that I didn't fall in love with it. No, sometimes with sequels, they're hit or miss, and this wasn't a miss for me, but it wasn't like a 100% hit for me. There were some problems I had with it. I think it had some flaws, and overall, I didn't love it as much as Vicious. It feels very much like a middle book, and I thought that there was going to be only 2 books in the series. It was going to be a duology. After finishing this, I feel like there's no way this can be a duology. There are so many questions left unanswered. There's a cliffhanger. You just don't know what is, like, nothing has wrapped up the way it should be. So I have to believe that there's going to be a 3rd novel. We may have to wait 5 years to get it, but I'm determined that there's going to be another novel because we have so many questions unanswered. So in regards of it, if it is a trilogy, it does feel very much like a middle book to me, where it's kind of like you get some questions answered, but then you get a lot of new questions, and it just feels like, you know, a middle book in a series. I hate saying that, but it just feels like that to me. If I can give this a star rating, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I feel like I've been slamming it, but I really enjoyed it. I finished it very quickly. I was enamored from start to finish with this book, but I wanted it to be a 5, but it wasn't a 5 for me, and I'll go into more details in the spoiler section of why. But say, you know, if you love Vicious, you have to read more about Victor and Eli and the progression of the story, but overall, I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to, but I'm not surprised. Does that make any sense? So now I'm going to talk about spoilers. So from here on out, if you have not read Vengeful, please do not watch any further. I do not want to spoil it for you, and if you haven't finished it, go finish the book and come back and watch this, and let's talk all about it, because I have a lot of unanswered questions. Maybe you can help me with them, maybe not, but either way, let's talk about them. So spoilers ahead. I wrote a whole bunch of notes. They're all out of order, so forgive me as this is going to be kind of a all over the place review, but review is not on my channel. So this book takes place pretty much right after Vicious ended. So Vicious ended with Victor dying, but I think we all kind of knew that Sydney was going to bring him back to life, which she does, and that's exactly what happens in Vengeful. But the only problem is Victor is brought back to life. There's a few problematic things with that. As Sydney brings like people back to life or animals, there's always a little kink into bringing them back, and Victor's is that he constantly dies. So his powers is like cause pain a lot, I think, with electricity and just like all that kind of stuff. So his thing after he gets brought back to life is his power intensifies and it kills anybody around him, and it kills himself because it just like explodes, and he dies for a few minutes and then he wakes up again to start life again. So it's happening more and more frequently for him and for longer. So for the first time it starts for him, he maybe dies for 30 seconds, and the next time it'll be a minute, and it just gets longer and longer. And he knows that eventually what's going to happen is that when his powers surge a lot, he's going to die, and he's going to die for good. So we have that going on with Victor. That's his whole storyline, is progressing of that, and I'll come back to that. We also have Eli. So at the end of Vicious, we also got to see Eli go into jail where Victor was, and Eli is just in prison, and he's kind of skulking around, but he's actually getting experimented on by this evil doctor. I forget the name, and the doctor just cuts Eli open, and he really examines how fast he can heal, because Eli, you know, is like, he can't die pretty much, and the doctor will insert foreign objects into him and see what happens. And basically the doctor discovered that I think if it's small enough, you can insert something in Eli's skin, and it will, I don't know, somehow he makes the serum that can suppress the powers of an EO, which is insanity. I think his name is Dr. Haverty, but either way, he experiments on Eli. That's what's going on with Eli. There's more about him. Two brand new characters in this book called Marcella and June. The book kind of begins, I don't know, or towards the beginning, we have the introduction of Marcella, and she is a mob wife, and her husband and her have been married for a while, and it's going good. And basically, her husband comes home one day, and she realizes that he has cheated on her, and she doesn't take it nicely at all. Neither would I. And she's like, you know what? And they start fighting, and physical things are happening, and basically a fire erupts in their house, and Marcella's husband kind of leaves her there to die, and he assumes that she's dead, and she does die in the fire, but she comes back, and her power is like destroying everything she touches, which I've noticed that like people like die in the when people die in the circumstance they're in, that has something to do with their EO powers. Like Victor was like on a table with all this like electricity, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it's electricity, but that's his power. Sydney, Eli was kind of in a frozen bathtub, and I think he thought a lot of things. It's also a lot of their thoughts about when they died too, if that makes any sense. So like Marcella's last thought or last words to her husband were, I will ruin her. I will ruin you. So basically that is what Marcella's power is. Everything she touches will, like, if it's wood, it'll like, if it's like metal, it'll turn to ash, and she just destroys anything that she touches. We also have June, who is kind of a human voodoo doll. At first I thought she can just change personalities or just change her skin to look like anybody else's, but basically she cannot feel any pain if she is in someone else's like skin. She can transform in anybody else, and it's very interesting. She is a very much mystery of a character. So in this book, Victor, who has a big problem of dying over and over again, so he goes on the hunt for EOs who can help cure him, and every time he meets an EO that doesn't help cure him, he kills them because he doesn't want to get his path traced back to him. And it kind of does a full circle, like in the first book, of that's what Eli did. He would kill EOs because he felt that was the right thing to do, and Victor is now killing EOs. Does that make Victor in the same playing field as Eli? Does it make him any better than Eli because he's doing exactly the same thing? And just like in Vicious, Eli's in jail just much like Victor was in jail. So we have a lot of different things going on. This book takes a lot of different paths, and again, like the first one, we have the different time jumps. We would have different characters, and they would talk about 5 years leading up to their character, leading up to this timeline. Confusing. The first one got confusing, but we didn't have as many characters in the first one as we do in Vengeful. Vengeful was just very, like, I felt kind of choppy with the jumps in time, and overall I was just very, like, I had to flip back several times reading the book to figure out where we were, what character we were with, what time period it was. It was just, And with this book, I feel like with these two new characters, which I really enjoyed because they were strong females, I love that, but we didn't get a ton of Victor and Eli, which is why I think a lot of people love Vicious, including myself. I feel like we kind of just they were on the back burner because they didn't have, you know, much intense plots like the first book as these two main characters do in this book. So we didn't get a lot of them. So I think that's why I didn't love this book as much as I wanted to, because we didn't have enough of our favorite characters. Like, I really wanted more. Like, Sydney was discovering her powers of kind of resurrection and bringing things life back from the dead. She would experiment on things, and she kind of experiments with Serena ashes, which is another unanswered question. Like, she goes back to get her ashes, but does she not do that? Or does she, like, is she going to follow through with bringing back Serena? That would be very, very interesting. I would love to hear more about that. June is another big mystery of a character. At the end of the book, Marcella's, like, done, which I was expecting because she was just very explosive. Like, she started off strong in the book, and I really enjoyed her because she was a strong female, and she didn't take no for an answer. She did what she needed to do. But during the progression of the book, I was just like, she just wants power to have power. And I kind of wasn't upset when she was axed off, because she was just getting kind of annoying. She was getting too greedy. She was getting like she's the boss and no one else. And it was just, So June, though, is another big question. Like, what is the history of June? We don't learn much about her. We don't know anything about her, really. And I want to know more. She is an enigma, and I have to know more about her. With June, I just want to know more about. As far as the ending goes, the ending, what happens is, what does happen at the ending? The ending, I felt, was so rushed. Like, the last 20 pages, I was so confused by, because it happened literally in the blink of an eye. So I think Eli eventually dies. That is one thing that happens. But is he going to be brought back to life or not? I don't know. It's a very interesting question, because I feel like Eli just can't die because the series is not done yet. So Victor, I think, has gotten the serum from the doctor to help suppress his power, which is going to make him more vulnerable, yes, because there will be a time where he can't have his powers, but it's a short-term solution for him dying repeatedly. He needs to find, like, did the doctor die too? I don't know if he did, but is he going to find another doctor to help him experiment with the serum, or is he going to find somebody else to help him with his repeatedly dying? So yeah, that's what happens at the ending, and I don't feel like it was an explosive ending. It was just kind of a lot happened at the ending, and it didn't make any sense to me. Like, June kind of breaks in, then she leaves, then it ends with June, and I just feel like I have a big question mark with the end of the series, which I think is probably the intention, because it keeps you wanting more, that is for sure. But I mean, I love this series. I will read anything V.E Scwab writes. That is freaking the truth. Any clarity on the ending, I would love to hear your thoughts about it, because I'm just confused as to what happened, why it happened, where do we go from here, kind of thing. So I would love to hear your thoughts about Vengeful. Overall, like I said, I really enjoyed it. It didn't live up to Vicious, but that's okay. I wasn't expecting to, because Vicious was such an amazing first book. It's kind of hard to live up to. It sounds horrible, but either way, I really enjoyed it. I want to see more of these characters. I have to learn more about them. Are we ever going to get a third book? There has to be a third book, right? There's going to have to be. I'm expecting it in 5 years, though. Like, I'm not going to wait for it anytime soon, because this one took 5 years to make. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts about Vengeful. Please leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.